Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order at exactly 5:30 p.m. How about that? And I can confirm we do have quorum, in fact, full attendance. And with that, I would like to ask Councillor Schumacher if you could read the land acknowledgement, please.
I will gratefully, thank you. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty Number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in the support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you for that. So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that the regular council meeting agenda dated Monday, February 27th, 2023 be adopted as printed and circulated with the following deletion. Under 4, deputations, 4.1, Melissa Pohl, RE 3 Fires International Film Festival. And did I say deletion or delegation? I did say deletion. That's a deletion, good. I'm just checking to see if I did say that. Are there any questions? All those in favor? And that carries, thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. I'll be declaring a conflict on agenda item 8.26 bylaw 2023-20 and 8.2.7 bylaw 2023-21, and that'll be for business reasons, for ongoing business relationship with Burnell Road Management and Steve Hernan.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, so noted. Actually, I'll hold on to that one just so I can remind myself. All right, moving right along, we do have one deputation, and that is Teresa Oliver will be joining us, I believe, via internet, and regarding our development charges agreement with 425 Highview Drive. Hi, Teresa, we can see you.
Oh, great, thanks. How's everyone?
Fine. I think we can hear you as well. Isn't that great? We can do both. That's good. All right. We've just introduced you, and so you're on.
Okay, so thank you very much. This is about the development charges for 425 Highview Drive. We're actually still trying to finish this building. The infrastructure for this project is substantial. So we're really struggling to get Hydro One pushed along the path. They're getting there, but we're not the only project that's really struggling to get them coordinated and liven up the building. So we're in this unenviable position to have to ask for a small delay on the development charges. We're hoping it's no more than, say, 6 months. And I'm hoping that council can consider it. The good news is that once this infrastructure is in, it's now good for all 5 buildings. So hopefully the rest of the project can speed right along. But we really are kind of pushing ourselves over the finish line at the moment.
Okay. Thank you for that. Are there questions from committee or from council? A quick question, Teresa. This is I was driving by the other day and I noticed the first building. It seems to have, it's moving right along. Do you have an idea when the opening date it might be?
It depends on Hydro One. Everything's ready. We've actually ready to ask for partial occupancy right now, but we've got no hydro connection. Hydro One, I don't know, maybe council members are running into other developers that are having the same issue. We just can't get Hydro One sped up. We literally only got the transformer maybe a week and a half ago.
Wow. Okay.
So, and we got lucky because the electrician that's working for us, guy called Mike Dawson, you folks may be familiar with him. He really he went ahead of their own scheduling and pushed them through their process. So we're just really waiting.
Okay.
We only literally got the transformer, so as soon as we have hooked up, we've got to do a couple of last tests. The building's ready to get the partial occupancy request.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Through you, Teresa, so the issue with hydro is that you can't pay development charges because you don't have hydro go in the
Well-
building, and you can't rent it out to get the money to come in to pay development charges, or how's that
Got
going?
it. So there's a couple of things that depend on each other. For us to get our last straw from the funder, we have to have substantial completion. And a substantial completion certificate comes from the architect, but the architect can only issue that when the town of Huntsville can give you at least a partial occupancy. They can't give us partial occupancy without the electricity in the building or running water. So those are the two requirements. So we're sort of working in a chicken and egg situation.
Follow up?
So hydro holding you up, and then water. So what's the issue with the water? So if you get the hydro and you don't have the water, you still can't get an occupancy. So are you talking
Luckily, the
weeks
water
or
has
months?
already
or-
been resolved. We're just waiting for the last permit for connection with the district. So actually, that's going to be finished way ahead of hydro. Our last piece of the puzzle was getting Hydro 1 over the finishing line. But no, my point was that you can't get occupancy of a building if you don't have electricity and water and like a running suite. You've actually got to have a complete suite. So I can't have an occupancy permit without lights on, for instance.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well,
So-
unless you were, no, okay, another follow-up or another
But just to
question?
follow up with the hydro again, sorry.
Okay.
So if you're almost at completion to get, I guess the hydro inspection's already taken place without the hydro being hooked up?
Well, hydro inspection happens along the way. So what happens is you do it in stages, but the last hydro connection has to be still connected. Hydro 1 is not connected yet, and then inspected. But usually that inspection is maybe a week from connection, and it's really not a long process. What really has been the process here is getting Hydro 1 to jump all of their hoops to get to the table. Like I said, literally, we only got the transformer literally maybe a week and a half ago, which is the transformer which allows you the electricity, all the electricity connections to the building.
Speaking of that, so Teresa, have you reached out to either Kirsten Maxwell or on our Director of Planning with respect to this, or
It's actually a Chris Nagy thing, and we already know what the process is. We just need to get Hydro 1 connected. Once we have Hydro 1 connected, we can request partial occupancy.
Okay.
We've already pretty much got everything ready. We're just waiting for Hydro 1 to finish up. And once Hydro 1 finishes it up, then the sequence starts. Then we can ask for partial occupancy. The architect issues substantial completion, and then
right?
get
I,
them all.
I was really just curious if you had brought them up to speed on that, but I'm assuming you are finance.
Chris Nagy and Amanda from the build department will be aware.
Okay,
Because we've been talking to Chris Nagy about the requirements for substantial completion.
okay. That's helpful. Councillor Renwick?
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, Teresa, if the Hydro 1 does come in within a month, does that mean that the 6 months, you don't need the 6 months deferment?
Correct.
It would just be
Yeah,
1 month?
Well, it comes in within a month, but there is no, so it's a little more complicated than that. How it works in funding is we construct first and then we get the money after the money has been proved to be spent. So it works on a cost to complete basis. That's sort of a standard construction thing. So what happens is that the lenders then come and confirm that this work is complete. We then have to issue a substantial completion notice in the newspaper, the Daily Commercial News. That allows the lien period, which is a 60-day lien period, to go. So if you've got to go through the bank process, which is going to take a couple of weeks. Then you've got the 60-day lien period, and then you get funds released. So we're talking at least 3 months, minimum 3 months. That's if Hydro 1 connected tomorrow.
So
Follow-up?
thank you, follow-up. So if it's beyond 6 months, could it be beyond 6 months then? If they don't,
Very much doubt it. No,
Yeah,
we're
okay.
literally just
That's-
waiting for Hydro 1 to come to the table, and we finally got the transformers. So,
right, okay, that's good.
Okay,
and the electricians have been running around like crazy people trying to speed the last connections up. So
All right. Teresa, we're dealing with this under new business at the very end of the meeting. So thank you for your deputation, though, then giving us a heads up. All right?
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. So under agenda item number 5, I have a motion moved by Councillor Cloutier, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the following council meeting minutes be adopted as printed and circulated. 1, regular council, January 30th, 2023, and 2, planning council, February 15th, 2023. Are there questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay. Under number 6, we have reports from committees and meeting minutes. Number 1 is 6.11, Huntsville Public Library Board, January 10th, 2023. Councillor Cloutier, would you like to highlight anything from the report?
Nothing, they're just moving along here and we're looking up to get, we lost a member, sorry.
Sorry, I should have told
Through
you that.
Your Worship, sorry.
I need to put my glasses on.
We, the one new member has stepped down before we started, so now we're looking to add, so they're gonna ask to get it put back out into the public so we can bring another member on board.
Okay,
So, that's it.
thank you for that. All right, moving to 6.1.2, Downtown Huntsville BIA. We have minutes from February 16th, 2023. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. The BIA has always met on the third Thursday of the month, and they are now changing until the second Wednesday of the month in order to get their minutes out a little sooner for reports for council, which is great. And they are changing their start time from 8 o'clock in the morning to 7:30 in the morning. So thank you to them. That should be fun. I don't mind getting up early in the morning, that's fine. And they also had a really great guest the other day. It was Kay Leslie and her guide dog Storm came and spoke to the BIA, the board, about negotiating downtown and navigating downtown as someone with a non-seeing person and just with her dog, and it was very, very enlightening to listen to her, and so it was a great addition to the board, to the board meeting. That's all.
Thank you for that. I read
welcome.
that in the minutes and
Yeah.
thought that would have been really interesting. I'll bet it was a bit of an eye-opener for everybody, I would think. Whoops. Yikes. Phew. Moving right along, 6.1.3, Committee of Adjustment, January 25th, 2023, February 15th, 2023. Councillor Stone, anything to report?
Not much. So on January 25th, we had 7 approvals. February 15th, we had 1 approval. Our meeting lasted a total of 9.5 minutes. I think it's a record. But that was probably our last Committee of Adjustment, because much of what happens at Committee of Adjustment will now be part of our community planning permit system. And while I still have the mic, I just wanted to mention at our Planning Council, we actually approved different developments that brought us a total of 98 new housing units. So I think it's a win for us, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. All right. You just threw me because it was Planning Council, and it doesn't say that on my notes here. Sorry, Councillor Stone, that just threw me a little. Okay, thank you for that. All right, and finally, 6.1.4, the Municipal Accommodation Tax Update. Councillor Morrison, anything to add?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Lauren from the Town of Huntsville staff and myself and Bob have attended, I think, 3 meetings now. We're having some really productive conversations. We have some initiatives that have been put forward that are really exciting for the town, working together on that. I will just quickly mention a few of the things that have been done by HMATA recently. The CAMA, the municipal administrators conference that's coming that Denise will be attending. We've given them $11,700, which is amazing. The thing about that conference that we loved about it at HMATA is their mandate is to spread people from Deerhurst throughout the town, not just the town, but the district. So they're going to be doing events to breweries and shopping and everything else. So it's great. And they're really showing off the town. So that was an easy one. Also, Mayor Alcock and I had the pleasure of speaking at the Ontario University Athletics Nordic Ski Championships dinner or awards the other night. And I'd volunteered for a couple of days. We gave them $11,000. Bob will love this because I worked at the starters spot each day, and there was all these high-performing academic university students just talking about how much they loved Huntsville, how much they didn't know that we had Arrowhead, and how much they loved the town itself. So I asked them at the awards if they would all shift their majors to medicine and come here and work as doctors. And they, so who knows, we'll see, but Mayor Alcock's nephew was there too. So it was amazing, and they occupied a ton of hotel rooms and did a great job. We are giving some money to the triathlon, which is good. It means we're not taking it from the levy. And we're also giving money to, if I can remember correctly, a job fair that the YWCA is running. So yeah, lots of good things happen at HMATA.
Thank you for all of those comments, and you're quite right. It was interesting to hear the remark made that how much they appreciated the dollars from HMATA to help with that event, and it was publicly recognized. So that was really cool, and it going to an excellent event for sure. And it's true, Councillor Morrison did talk about having all of the students change their majors to medicine. They chuckled. All right, moving right along, we are now at agenda item 6.2, reports for adoption. And so I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the following general committee meeting minutes be adopted as printed and circulated, with the exception of recommendation GC 30-23 to be pulled and voted on separately. Number 1, February 1st, 2023. Number 2, February 7th, 2023. And February 16th, 2023. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Okay, so, and this, all right, and this is the motion that was pulled and to be voted on separately. So the original motion was moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the Town of Huntsville draft 2023 consolidated budget as attached to Report Corp -2023-7 be amended to include the following. The following reserve contributions into the working funds reserve be removed from the finance budget. 1, budget savings in the amount of $63,750 from DC on debentures. A, dividend income in the amount of $324,400 be transferred to reserves. B, maintain funding from debenture changes in the amount of $70,000. C, add an annual contribution of $150,000 into the working funds reserve in the finance budget. 2, remove the one-time contribution to working funds reserve from the COVID-19 recovery reserve in the amount of $482,200. 3, include a reserve transfer of $482,200 from the COVID-19 recovery reserve in 2023 and close the reserve. 4, the one-time consulting fees of $35,000 for a one-way street study as identified in report OPS-2021-40, and funding of $35,000 from the Public Works Capital Reserve be removed. 5, notwithstanding the municipal accommodation tax budget principles policy number budget financial -20, the following positions be funded for 1 year from the municipal accommodation tax general reserve. A, full-time communications coordinator in the amount of $61,120. B, fund the full-time front-of-house position in the amount of $71,639. And further that the amended Town Draft 2023 consolidated budget as outlined in Report Corp -2022-07 with a total levy of $19,178,056 be forwarded to council for consideration. So that's the original motion, but there is an amendment. And the amendment is very simple. And that was the 19 million number did not include the addition for the local share levy that we all agreed to support. So we're changing that, and if I read this, you'll understand it. Motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the following be struck out at the end of the last paragraph, $19,178,056 be forwarded to council for consideration, and further that the following be inserted in its place. $19,408,056 be approved. So that includes the $230,000 that we are decided to contribute on an annual basis to our special hospital fund, right? Any questions or comments about the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. So I will call the question on the original motion as amended. All those in favor? And that carries. Holy cow. Holy cow. That's all I can say. That's an, all right, and this one I just, okay, just that's good. Okay, all right, and I've lost my agenda. Uh-oh, sorry. 7.1, okay. We are now on 7.1. Aha. Reports from municipal officers. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that council approve a minimum of 6 parking spots in the parking lot located at 11 and 13 High Street and 10 and 12 Princess Street, dedicated for EV, electric vehicle chargers, with the possibility of future expansion to a total of 13 parking spots. And further that the EV chargers location layout be approved to the satisfaction of the Chief Administrative Officer or designate, and further that the land lease agreement between Lakeland Solutions and the Town of Huntsville be completed to the satisfaction of the Chief Administrative Officer or designate. Brandon, are you joining us for this? And Tarmo, sorry, I noticed Brandon up there. I think it's a team effort. We're being joined by both our director and manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So through you, what we have today is just a report, and basically outlines the discussions that we've been having for a little bit of time now with Lakeland Solutions. So they first approached the town back in 2021 about a grant process and asking the municipality for a letter of support as part of the grant process. So that was provided in principle to Lakeland, and then staff had dealt with them previous occasions, looking at multiple different parking lots throughout Huntsville. Provided some options, some ones that we had thought about, ones that they had thought about, and in the end, Lakeland has come back to the town saying that the parking lot directly behind Town Hall here is the most primary location for these spots. So back and forth with them, and we understand parking and how that is in Huntsville, so we came back with what we feel is an appropriate location and quantity of parking spots. So the way it works is the chargers that they are hoping to use, some accommodate 1 vehicle, some will accommodate 2. So what they're looking for is the 6 spots. We feel that that's an appropriate amount at this point for their funding, so they have received funding for it. So right now, that's where we sit. This is a 5-year grant process. So initiative must be done by 2024. So through you, Your Worship, we're open to questions.
Councillor Stone?
Thank you. I didn't see in the report, and perhaps I missed it, but I didn't see any mention of revenue to the town for doing this. I love it, and I'm thrilled. I know that Flow, for example, which is another electric vehicle charger, there is a revenue stream for the property owner. Is there anything here?
Through Your Worship, so those discussions have not taken place at this point. As through the motion, we are looking at land lease agreements. We are recommending that they be at the satisfaction to the CAO or designate. So through that, we will be having those discussions, but right now, the time of the essence is to occupy parking spots in order to order the material in time, or the product. So.
Thank you.
Councillor Cluche, followed by Councillor Clark.
I look at this, possible 6 up to 12. Those spots are usually a little bit bigger than what normal parking spot is. So if you take a look over there where we have 6 spots, they're probably gonna, where we have 6 vehicles parked, that's probably gonna take up 8 spots over there, just because of the size. And I'm a little bit worried about if they put all this infrastructure in over there and someday we decide to do something with that lot, make it bigger, expand it, change the landscape of it, who pays for the cost of relocating all of this? If it's our idea to do something with the lot, who pays to relocate the services and anything like that? And also, these have to be paved, do they not? Because they have to be marked, and we only have gravel over there.
Through Your Worship, so we have had those discussions with Lakeland Solutions. So as far as the surface type for the parking lot, they are okay with gravel. Those parking stalls can be signed, EV chargers. We will definitely look into the size, but it was not brought to our attention that they are wider. We did go out, we did mark the spots, and we counted, and the measurements was agreed to between Lakeland and town staff that basically your average parking stall is 3 meters wide by 6 meters long. So that's what we used through our transportation manual for parking lots. So we did follow that. You get about 19 spots in one row. So they're looking to occupy 6 with the possibility of expansion in the future up to a maximum of 13. So their original request was for 13 parking spots.
Okay, and back again, for any relocation of future expansion of the lot, I'd like to see something in there that we're not paying the cost to relocate them or move them if we do anything with that lot in the future, that's all. Thank you.
Through Your Worship, if I can just comment on that. So this whole initiative is a no cost to the municipality. The infrastructure that will be put in will be purchased and owned by Lakeland Solution themselves. So how the format of the land lease agreement works out, if we choose not to entertain that past those years of what's been agreed to, then it would be their responsibility at their cost to remove it.
Thank you for that clarification, Brandon. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Thanks for the report, Brandon. Just a couple things on the same lines as Councillor Cluche. I'm not a big fan of this proposal in this location. We all know staff use this parking lot, and it's full. I mean, you come to a meeting at the town, and there's nowhere to park there right now. So if we're looking at giving up potentially 12 to 13 spots in the future, or even just 6 for now, I think it's going to make an existing parking problem a whole lot worse. I also don't like the fact that we bought the property for parking and for future development, and we're giving that option up by agreeing to a 12-year lease. In essence, we lose control of that property if we wanted to use it for something else other than a parking lot for 12 years. So, not a fan of it, I don't think. I'd like to know, I just wondering, had they looked at the parking lot at Muskoka Heritage Park that's right off Burnell Road at all? Because I know a lot of times that parking lot, when you drive by, it seems underutilized. Just wondered if that was a parking lot that had been looked at. Thank you.
So,
Brandon?
through your worship, we did look at those options. Again, staff had talked about the active living center, the memorial parking lot up the hill, as well as there, and Lakeland's, their analysis comes back and says that they are not primary locations. So,
Follow up?
I just argue that I think it's really not that much further away than this parking lot here. I would argue that fact with them, I think, but, thank you.
Councillor Renwick?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I think further to what Councillor Clark said, the 4 spots that are potential spots at the Active Living Centre, if that map is correct, that is right behind the Active Living Centre, is it not? And that little parking lot that's there, those are prime spots too. When we have an event, any events at the Active Living Centre, if you don't have an electric car, those spots will sit empty, correct? So I'm hesitant to give away spots like that. And similar to what Mr. Clark or Councillor Clark said, with the spots here, we have such few spots here in downtown for parking. I would be hesitant to give those spots up.
Thank you for that. If I may, just a quick comment. Devil's advocate on the other side, that we are talking about parking spots, going for parking spots. That there are people with electric vehicles that need to charge their car and need to park and charge their car. I don't know about you, but I've had a number of people contact me saying we don't have any electric charging stations anywhere in our town, other than Tesla charging at the mall. So to me, I'm just devil's advocate. It's not as if we're abandoning parking spots and changing the use to something else. They continue to be parking spots while people charge their car. And more people are, in fact, getting EVs than, all right, so I throw it out there. I'm just playing devil's advocate, and I'm quickly going to Councillor Schumacher, and followed by Councillor Cluche.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Alcock. Yeah, so I guess to your point, is there like a time limit then? Could these be used as parking spots, or if staff or, staff from us, staff from downtown businesses, they park in that one spot all day charging their car, that just takes up the spot as well. So is there like a time limit, or would it be an all-day parking the same as it is in that spot?
through your worship, in the talks with Lakeland Solutions, they would be requesting to uphold Bill 123. So what Bill 123 is it a clear outline of what describes an electric vehicle, and would also be subject to a fine if caught parking in there without electric vehicle. And if I may, just one more thing to Councillor Renwick's comment about the active living center, just to clarify, we are not recommending any EV chargers in that parking lot at this time. So we are only recommending High Street, as Lakeland did request that, but again, staff tried to provide some input and go that direction, and Lakeland would like to still occupy those two, but we are not recommending it.
For exactly the reason that Councillor Renwick pointed out. I mean, that parking lot is full all the time.
That's correct.
Yeah, right. Okay, I think I'm going to Councillor Fitzgerald, because
Thank you, Worship.
He hasn't weighed in yet.
I guess more of a comment than a question. I liked Councillor Schumacher's point about you could have an EV parked in that spot all day long. If it's plugged in, it's plugged in. So is it a viable spot for that purpose? I think that's impossible for us to police, and should we be policing that? I don't know, Brendale Square seems like a most likely spot to me. They should reach out to the owner there and see if he's agreeable to some income.
Well, you raise an interesting point, and Brandon will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Lakeland was looking for municipal. And I know you say that with some bit of jest, but he was looking for municipal parking. Is that correct?
Through your worship, yeah, that's correct. In our last discussions with Lakeland, If council was not in favor of their quota, they did mention they would reach out to others, but they have reached out to all stakeholders within Lakeland Solutions themselves and municipal parking lots. And there are other municipalities that are following suit with the request, so.
I think I heard Bracebridge was willing to jump on board as far as offering up spaces,
That's correct, Your Worship.
and the spaces that Lakeland has requested.
I did not see spaces in the report from Bracebridge, I just seen the
Okay.
parking lots themselves, so I can't speak to the amount of
But
parking
they
spots
were
itself.
happy to sign on. Okay, I'm going, I think, to Councillor Morrison, Deputy Mayor. Yeah,
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I don't own an EV, but I know I travel with some people that have, and I find when we go places, they tend to, like, they'll drop off me, and if we're with a couple of kids, and they'll just go park a little further off, charge the car, and then come on in. So I think the comment that Councillor Clark mentioned about up by Brunel Road at Muskoka Heritage Place, in my experience, if someone has an EV, they'd be quite happy to drop their kids off at the Summit Center, or their family go up and park the car, charge it, and then walk down to the Summit Center. So I think that location, if they're pushing for a location near the high school or near the Active Living Center, I think that location would work just fine. And I don't know of anyone I know who has a Tesla that would object to that, and it would keep those spots, and you guys already don't want to use those spots anyway, but just for future planning. And the other thing you guys mentioned in your report, Brandon, it is a little bit about if you build it, they will come sort of thing, that we are deficient in the amount of charging stations we have in the town. So I do think from traveling with those people that do have it, they find it difficult in some areas. We had a hockey game in Halliburton, and the one dad wasn't sure if he was going to make it home because there was nowhere in Bracebridge to charge his car. He would have had to go all the way to Aurelia, maybe not make it, and then get up. So I do like the fact that we're moving forward with this stuff, and that you guys are being careful about what locations that you're putting it at. But I think where Corey's suggesting would be great.
yes, Brandon, if you could respond to that as far as that location.
Yeah, through your worship. So when we did meet with Lakeland to look at these solutions, it wasn't just being exactly in the downtown core. It was where the infrastructure was readily available to meet the costs of the grants that they received. So for example, the parking lot at the back of the Active Living Center towards Lions Lookout, there's no power up there. So that was one of our main locations for it. However, the cost of running the electricity up to there was going to be above and beyond what the grants were for. So they weren't prepared to entertain those types of locations at this point. So it was also an infrastructure issue as well when it came to those locations.
Which, especially the location that Councillor Morrison was referring to near Heritage Place, same thing.
That's correct.
So it doesn't have the infrastructure. Okay, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Brandon. Just a quick one, Brandon. If we were to put 6 spots on here, I think you're looking at the east side of the parking lot or up towards the funeral home. Is that what you're talking?
So through your worship, so in the report, it outlines their concept, but we are asking as part of our recommendation to come up with the concept to the CAO or designate's satisfaction. So they're asking for 6 spots. Now, whether they go all together or whether they're in the corners or where we lay that out is still to be determined. Just what you see in the report was their formal request.
Yes, follow up.
So each parking spot only requires 1 parking spot currently, or does it expand because of the charging unit? Does it push the vehicles out into another parking spot? So we're doubling it, depending on where you put them.
So through your worship, the charging spots are going to be on the end, and we looked at if all 6 were on that row, by the time you put the units in, we wouldn't be impeding into other parking spaces. We did lay that out, but it's the size of the chargers. So for one that they want to use for 2 parking spots, they're not massive chargers, so they won't have an impact to any other parking spots from when we did our site visit.
Thank you for that. It sounds like you did look at all of the various alternatives of what Lakeland was proposing and did an exhaustive, research as to what works, what doesn't work. And from your perspective, what is proposed in the report, the 6 spots on the High Street parking lot, makes the most sense as far as municipal parking? Am I
Your
putting
worship,
you on the spot?
No, that's quite all right. It's, in our professional opinion, I mean, we looked at, people with EVs, not only are they in the downtown core, but they play sports, they go to trails, active transportation. There's all these locations that they could be located. The infrastructure's not there.
Right.
Future-wise, absolutely. But for the sake of the grant and the letter of support that we have provided, we feel this is the best recommendation at this time.
And I guess it's important to remember that, which you stated in your report, which was that the previous council, there was a letter of support for Lakeland to explore this. So this is like the second phase of it. They're coming forward with the proposal, and we had provided a letter of support that they do this. So it's interesting. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know around the table, there seems to be some different appetites for different areas and stuff. I'm just wondering, before we have a final on this, could we get a location and maps of where you want to place these, so we know exactly where in the parking lot they're going to be placed, if they're going to be in the corner, up against the back fence wall, et cetera, before we actually sign it? Is that possible to amend that to that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So through you, Your Worship, they really need a commitment from us. That the point being that they need to order the equipment before the end of the month in order for the grant to be able to be utilized. So if council is amenable to parking spaces in the High Street parking lot, and if you wish just to see locations, that's fine, as long as we can commit to it. But once we've committed to it, we have to give them 6 spots. But we definitely could bring back a drawing of where we'd like to propose the spots for.
Yeah.
But we'd need to have a commitment to them saying we're committed to 6 with the opportunity to expand. But we could definitely bring a map back, but knowing that once we've committed to spots in High Street, we're committed.
Right.
That's important. The other thing, if I may add, Your Worship, with respect to the location, the other discussion we had with Lakeland was that the economic impact that it would have by having the spots located in the downtown core. Infrastructure was a key component. They require certain transformers to support the infrastructure. But the other point being that if they're parking here, they're probably going for lunch and shopping in our downtown. So there is a, can we prove there's an economic impact? No. But if someone has to charge their vehicle, depending on the vehicle itself, it could take anywhere from 10 minutes to 3 hours, whatever the time is. So while they're parked here, they're walking downtown. If the infrastructure's further out of town, that might not be something they would do. It might be something they would do. It's hard to say, but that's another piece that we discuss with them.
Thank you for that. Councillor Schumacher.
Yes, through you, Mayor Alcock. More of a comment, I guess, is that, yes, I would agree. I'd like to see, because I didn't see in the report where exactly over on High Street you guys were looking, so I would agree to that. I am in favor and support of this, especially as we have declared a climate emergency and we do want to look and be that town that supports climate change initiatives, and we do have a committee working towards those, and active transportation, so I think this is a good step towards those initiatives that as a council we're agreeing to.
Thank you for that, Councillor Schumacher. I should reiterate that the motion that we have before us really only does that. It specifies that we're committed to 6 parking spots in the parking lot located on High Street and Princess Street. It doesn't say where. So I think we are okay as far as this motion, as far as I can tell. Are there any other questions or comments with respect to? Yes, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Just a quick one. Just to be clear, I am in favor for sure of EV charging stations, but not in this location. And I understand the pressure's on because of grants, but I can guarantee you there'll be lots of other grants come forward as, EVs are, there's all kinds of incentives right now to build them. I have a hard time believing that this will be the last grant that is available for a municipality or Lakeland in this case. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions with respect to the motion? Okay, then I will call the question. All those in favor? Is that a favor? Or all those opposed? And that carries. Thank you, everybody, for a great conversation about that, and thank you for the report. And for what it's worth, Councillor Clark, I agree. I think there will be other grants available. All right, moving right along, we have the next motion has been moved by Councillor Renwick and seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Whereas resolution number GC 117-22 directed staff to investigate utilities at the Lions Lookout Park. And whereas resolution number 280-22 directed staff to develop concepts and options for future use of the Lions Lookout Park and hold public consultations. And whereas the waterfront strategy and the community services master plan already outlines potential future uses based on multiple public consultations. And now therefore be it resolved that the community services master plan and waterfront strategy committee review current plans in relation to Lions Lookout Park to develop an overall vision for the future use of the park, and further that public consultation is to be undertaken regarding recommendations from the CSMPWSC regarding potential future use of the park, and further that the utility services be developed and cost estimates provided to council once the Lions Lookout Park vision and planned future use has been approved by council. Over to you two. Sure, sirs.
Thank you, Your Worship. So again, pretty straightforward. The last time I was in front of council, had a recommendation to go out for public consultation to create some concept plans for Lions Lookout and report back with that. So staff went back, conducted a comprehensive review of two very important studies, and through those studies, they have really held a very good comprehensive public engagement. It is laid out in your report, the format of how that was done. If you haven't read the reports, I strongly advise you to. They are great documents. They both have been adopted through council for reference documents only. And with that and the new committee structure that has just been implemented, staff are here today to recommend that it go to them for review and implementation for what's been outlined for Lions Lookout Park. And then we're also recommending that there's going to be once the vision's established, we go back out to public consultation to see if the public's vision is that of the committee. And then staff can get involved once that's established to provide any type of design concepts and estimates for servicing to that park. So with that, questions?
Thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Stone.
Thank you. I have no trouble sending it to committee to review it, but I did want to go on record saying it's perfect just the way it is, and I don't want to see any permanent structures built in that beautiful space. And I'll leave it there.
Okay, all right. And I'm sure committee will have a lot of discussions about that too. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right. Moving right along, I have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Cloutier. Be it resolved that council approve the excluded expenses from the town 2023 consolidated budget as outlined in Report Corp-2023-12. Julia, you're joining us for this?
Thank you. I'll just provide a very quick high-level explanation of what this report's showing. So the town's consolidated budget is prepared on a modified accrual basis of accounting, which shows how the town is using the funds raised in any given year. The town's financial statements are prepared on a full accrual basis accounting. So this just shows the change in the value of the assets being held by the municipality. So since they're prepared doing two different methods, we have to show how they match at the end. So when the budget's being brought forward, we also bring back this report, which is required under OREG 284-09.
Nice and short and sweet. And let's see how many questions there are for Ms. Julia. Are there any questions or comments with respect to this report? Seeing none, I guess I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thanks, Julia. Moving right along to 7.4. I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that council directs staff to develop an agreement with the Rotary Club of North Muskoka for the installation and maintenance of a sensory garden in Riverside Park to the satisfaction of the Director of Operations and Protective Services and Chief Administrative Officer. And further that council authorize the Director of Operations and Protective Services to execute the agreement with the Rotary Club of North Muskoka and authorize the installation of the sensory garden in Riverside Park. Tarmo.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this was an initiative that was first brought to the Accessibility Advisory Committee by the Rotary of North Muskoka. They presented this concept where they would develop a wheelchair accessible trail through Riverside Park, which really has very little in it at this point in time. And as it was along that, there are several raised beds, garden beds that would be accessible at wheelchair height for any number of people. And it engages the five senses as you go through it. At the very end of the trail, there would be a little small barefoot trail. Again, different textures, different feelings. And what they're looking for is permission to put this in there. This is no cost to the town. Rotary would be doing the work. When I say no cost, there would be the town would be responsible for the locates to make sure that we're not tapping in anything we're not supposed to. But beyond that, in the first year of the garden, we would be doing a little bit of watering of the plants, but that would be part of our normal route. It doesn't add anything to the budget, and that's what it is. I should say that it also is in line with the town's current development standards as well in terms of park development.
Thank you for that. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I'd have to say I'm 100% in favor of this in a lot of ways. When I read the report, the barefoot thing seemed really neat, but even the wind chimes and the stuff that's going to go in there, it ties into the mental health initiatives that we're doing, get people outdoors. To me, it's a slam dunk for an underutilized park. I think it's great, for sure.
Totally. Councillor Cluche?
Through your worship. Great idea, I like it. Just the garden boxes, are they, like they're for the rest, for the whole duration? They're in any expenses of us having to pay to replace them in the future, or are they?
Through you, Your Worship, basically we would work out all of those details. My sense of it is that the town would be involved in any kind of future capital costs potentially. There are questions of replacement in case of damage or theft or vandalism, all of which we would discuss with the Rotary as part of that agreement.
Good stuff. Councillor Renwick, followed by Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I'm 100% in favor of this as well. And I guess my question was as well, what happens after the first year if these plants have to be replaced? But that will be a discussion that you'll have with Rotary and in perpetuity, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Great. Councillor Schumacher.
Yeah, just to echo, I really appreciated this when they did bring it to the Accessibility Committee. I don't know how many of you have traveled around. I've been down to Savannah and their big Forsyth Park. They have a scent garden right in the middle that is just phenomenal for people with vision impairments to be able to go in and smell the different scents. And it just brings something to a community, and I'm so excited that we're going to have this opportunity too.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's, I think it's a good thing for a somewhat slightly underutilized park. And Director Yakivi said my 6 favorite words, and that is that doesn't add anything to the budget. Thank you.
I'll add a 7th, which is partnerships, which I really like about this as well, that it's another outside organization stepping up and coming forward with a fantastic idea that we haven't done. So that I'm adding that 7th to Councillor Clark's list. Partnerships. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you for that. We are at bylaws. I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2023-15 to 2023-19 inclusive be reported and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 27th day of February 2023. I don't know why we still do third. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself here. Bylaw 2023-15, Broadbent 31 Kitchen Road South, rezoning. Bylaw 2023-16, Broadbent 31 Kitchen Road South, lifting of holding. Bylaw 2023-17, Snell 433 Evergreen Trail, original Shore Road allowance closure. Bylaw 2023-18, fees and charges bylaw amendment. Bylaw 2023-19, delegation of authority bylaw amendment. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. I was just wondering, since we don't actually have to read the third time anymore, are we changing that at some point? Okay, I just ignore that. Just that's we're just the clerk is ignoring me. I just want, and that's not a good sign. There we go. Sorry to put you on the spot, Tanya. Okie dokie. Councillor Clark, you have to sit back. Sit back. Sit back. All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2023-20 to 2023-21 inclusive be reported and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 27th day of February 2023. Bylaw 2023-20, Brunel Management Corporation, 24 Goldie Street. Rezoning, bylaw 2023-21, Brunel Management Corp., 24 Goldie Street, lifting of holding. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Okay. So, on to previous business, and Tarmo, Director UKV is up with 9.1, the Centre Street South Trail verbal update. Over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we've had staff go on 2 different occasions now and assess the trail conditions to see what we can do this winter season to clear that trail. We have a couple of challenges that are going to prevent clearing until basically the spring because of the sand and salt, the snow piles. So right now with the freeze-thaw cycles, the pile is just under 10 feet high at the bottom of the trail on the Centre Street South side, and that is rock solid. We don't actually have any equipment strong enough to move that pile at this point. We would be chipping away at it for quite some time. And there's a risk underneath. We have some rocks, large boulders there to prevent vehicular traffic from using that trail, either ATVs or cars. And if we were to hit those unknowingly, there's no way of finding them under that snow pile, that could do some significant damage to our town snow removal equipment. So we're going to have to wait for the thaw and start that process probably in the upcoming fall-winter season.
Are there any questions? Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, and thank you for that update, Director Ukivi. I've had many people call, and they are very disappointed that that trail or sidewalk has not been, we'll call it a trail, pathway has not been done, but I completely understand the reasoning behind it for not doing it. But I would like to definitely for next year, if we start it before the snow falls, then we can just maintain it as the winter goes through. And I think our residents will be very happy about that. Thank you.
And that is the plan. Right. Director, you can.
Yeah, through your worship, the thing that we have to change is where the snow is stored. So if we do that, then we don't have the same issue that we're in right now. Right now, the snow has all been piled up there, starting with, of course, the Christmas season. And that's still not gone from there.
Yep, Councillor Renwick.
Thank you. And not to get into operations, but what are you going to do with the snow? If that's where the snowplow pushes it to, you have to.
Through your worship,
Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
Okay.
We will figure it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
I love honesty. I think that's good. Any other questions or comments about that? Well, thank you for the update. That's great. All right, moving right along. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the following change to the 2022-2026 Huntsville Public Library Board members, adopted by Council Resolution 26-23, be approved, which is deletion of Heather Hunter. And Monty, you made, sorry, Councillor Cluche made reference to that earlier. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? And that carries. And I have another motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that the following changes to the 2022-2026 Accessibility Advisory Committee member roles adopted by Council Resolution 26-23 be approved. Heather Hunter, deletion, Vice Chair. Debbie Kerwin, addition, Vice Chair. Questions, comments? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Okay. I have a motion moved by, we are on new business 10. I have a motion moved by Councillor Cluche, seconded by Councillor Stone. Be it resolved that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the transfer payment agreement for the Safe Restart Agreement, Phase 4 municipal transit funding between His Majesty, the King and Right of Ontario, represented by the Minister of Transportation for the Province of Ontario and the Corporation of the Town of Huntsville. Julia, did you want to? There isn't anything to say other than this was our recent announcement. Any questions of Julia? No? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Thank you for that. That's great. Okay. So under new business, we did set aside an item, the request to defer the development charges for 425 Highview Drive in relation to the deputation from Teresa Oliver. So are there, yes, okay, look at that. Whoa. I wasn't, sorry, Councillor Fitzgerald, I don't know who was first, so I'll go to I'll go to Councillor Fitzgerald first.
Would be just lovely. Thank you, Your Worship. Few comments on this. I understand the frustration and the level of anxiety it's probably creating for the developer with all these holdups that she's experienced, and I guess through diligence she's somehow managed to persevere, because I think others may have given up by now. So I'm inclined to support her request, and hopefully she can get it done. And I don't know how she sleeps at night, so I'm in support of it.
Thank you for that. Would you be willing to move the motion? Yeah, okay. And Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thank you, Worship. I can support it also. I'm just curious, if she doesn't pay the DC charges, what's the outcome of that? Like, is she going to get charged interest, or is it just sit on the books, wait until she can pay it?
Julia?
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So there was actually also a motion on the table that said that council was waiving all the interest on this development. It's expected that this will qualify for affordable housing, so in that case, there would be no development charges that she actually has to pay. But we do need to get that confirmation from MPAC. So there is fairly little risk that we wouldn't get the funds.
Thank you for saying that, because she definitely qualifies. She received district funding towards these units, so under the affordable housing program. And the building, I did go by the other day, the first 27 units, she's right, they look like they're very close to being done, and they're all affordable. So that's 27 one-bedroom units. So thank you for clarifying that. Are there any, I do have a motion apparently already, and it's been signed. I didn't need you to move it, apparently. Okay. So, Councillor Clark, my apologies.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Just a quick question. Maybe the motion addresses it, but how long is the extension is it 6 months? Is that what we're dealing with?
It is looking made for an additional, we've got a 12-month extension in here.
Okay.
Why don't I read the motion, and then do you want to speak to it after that? Thank you. And apparently it's been moved by you, Councillor Clark. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Whereas recommendation GC 17-22 provided for an amending agreement with 2254048 Ontario Inc. related to the property at 425 Highview Drive, Chaffee, Concession 2, Lot 19, RP 35R 25284, Parts 1 and 2, in Huntsville in the District Municipality of Muskoka, to extend the agreement for up to 12 months. And whereas a request has been made for an additional 12-month extension. Now therefore be it resolved that notwithstanding policy budget and financial -12 staff be authorized to enter into an amending agreement with 2254048 Ontario Inc. related to the property at 425 Highview Drive, Chaffee, Concession 2, Lot 19, RP 35R 25284, Parts 1 and 2 in Huntsville, in the District Municipality of Muskoka, to extend the agreement for up to an additional 12 months. Now, see the motion? I think Tanya's working on that right now. And in the meantime, Director Mackenzie, would you like to speak to this?
I was just going to add, just with the 12 months, we need some time to get the assessment from MPAC back. So even if she is done, we still need to get that part. So I believe that's why it was 12 months, just to allow for that time to get all the paperwork in order.
So this is actually good for us, the 12-month, it makes sense. Okay, it's practical. It's a practical reality. Okay, are there any questions or comments? You have a look. No? Okay. I will call the question then. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you all. She will be most appreciative, I'm sure. Hydro can be something else. Okay. Okay, under general information, council correspondence, any questions or anyone want to raise anything in the correspondence? Okay, moving right along, we have District of Muskoka update, and we might as well start with you, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. We met on February 22nd. Started our meeting off going through the presentation for the operating and capital budget forecast. It was quite lengthy, good budget. At the end of the discussions, it works out to about $1 a day per person who's on water and sewer right now. So that's the actual increase. So it's not that bad, actually, when you think about it. We awarded a contract to a company called WAMCO. It has to do with doing water meters. So they're looking at replacing water meters in some old infrastructure that will actually be read electronically, so that will save costs eventually with not having to have someone go and actually physically read the meters. We also had a report from the portable water plants, and I'm happy to report come back with 100% compliance. So they're doing their job there in the waterworks, so water's good in Muskoka, so drink lots. When we had speed limit reductions, after many, many months of waiting for these, the one we put in for, actually for Aspen Road was denied due to the infrastructure of the road itself. They said they wanted to reduce it from a 60 speed limit down to a 50 kilometer zone, but it didn't meet the criteria. So after a good discussion around the committee, that was decided to deny that one. But I'm happy to report that we did approve the one for Bernal Ward with the transition coming into the public school. So they didn't drop it to 50, but they're going to drop it to 60 from 1 kilometer before the school, heading into town, so heading north. So it dropped from 80 to 60 and transitioned down to 50 down in the school zone. There's a few others for different municipalities across Muskoka. But in a nutshell, that was pretty much it for the meeting. Good.
Thank you for the update. Councillor Morrison, would you like to do an update on finance and corporate services?
Sure thing. Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, we did have our budget meeting. It's a little different than our meetings here with Julia and Riva and the gang down there. There's a lot of things that affect our levy. We are coming in at a 3.57% increase, and just to break that down a little bit, the Health Services Department is seeing an increase of 14.73%, and perhaps Bob can speak to a bit more about that, but it's just with us getting more people hired and some of those positions being filled. CAPS is coming in at 7.67% of an increase, and Public Works is coming in really good, I think, all things considered, at 3.3% of an increase. A couple of departments with minor decreases. We had a presentation from the CEO of the airport. I'm not going to speak for my fellow district councillors, but I'll say that I'm not the only district councillor that feels that some of the expenses are high. I raised an issue with budget item for $100,000 for governance consultation, and I found that hard to believe when the HMATA governance consultation and conflict of interest consultation will come in far, far, far lower than that. I didn't get much of a great answer on that, so I'll keep pushing back on those kind of things. We also had a fellow councillor at the airport on the district council ask when, at any point, the airport feels like they might be profitable or even at a break-even point. The answer was, we don't know. So he asked whether that was in a strategic plan and if that's not a thing. So just so you know, at the district level, we are pushing back on these things that are costing the taxpayers money, and there is going to be some answers coming down the pipeline for that. We also saw, believe it or not, the fact that we don't charge for license plate stickers is affecting our levy. Because part of our budget, part of our revenue stream is fines from the courts, because we run the court. And when you were paying for your license plate sticker, you actually had to pay your fines in order to get your license plate sticker. So they're having trouble collecting on fines right now, which is having an impact on our taxes, believe it or not, which kind of surprised me. So there's something they're working on with that with the province. And also they discussed a massive broadband initiative for rural communities. Bell and Rogers got the contracts. Lakeland bid but did not get approved, unfortunately, seeing how we're shareholders in that company. But there's going to be a substantial development with Bell and Rogers going forward on the broadband side of things. Make sure I'm not missing anything. And the health services as well. A big part of that health services was $4.7 million to the paramedic station in West Muskoka. Would that be Port Carling, Councillor Armour, or Bala?
It's right.
That's correct, Muskoka Lakes.
Okay, Muskoka Lakes. So that's a massive upgrade there, and that's part of the reason for the health services increase. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Stone, would you like to do health services?
Health services, yes. So we got a report from the health unit. And one thing surprised me, there was more deaths in 2022 than in the 2 years previous, combined.
With COVID?
Yes.
Yes, I know. I remember when they said that.
That surprised me. We saw the redevelopment design for Fairburn. Really exciting. 3 stories tall, but each pod, I'll call them, has 13 to 14 bedrooms in it. Each bedroom has its own washroom. 4% of the units will be for couples, which I like to see. But what's really nice, it'll be like a small family. They'll do their own dining there, and they have their own activity room, so they don't have to go to the gymnasium to eat their dinner every night. They can really have a small community, and I love everything that I saw. They're creating a shell space for 64 daycare spaces. However, they haven't identified the funding for that. But the build is going to include the space, and I hope it actually comes to fruition and they find the extra funding. And we're on track for a late 2025 move-in to Fairburn. So we're right on track, and they're pushing hard, so that's wonderful. We dealt with the budget, and it appears that half of the increase is due to health services, that being staffing, Fairburn, and local share. So that's much of what the increase will be for this year. And paramedic services, calls are up 6.75%, and that's significant for them. Aside from that, nothing else for health services. Did you want me to do district council at this point?
Yep.
All right.
I asked I asked Councillor Stone because I was sick on the night, so I wasn't there for council. So I asked.
We had a big presentation from the OPP about what they do and how they do it. We authorized staff to apply for a CMHC grant to create up to 26 single-bedroom units right on the property of the Pines. So they had to move very quickly to do this. So they already had this land and said, let's just make this happen. So a potential 26 units in Muskoka, so that's good. We increased the funding for the site preparation for Fairburn from 2 million to almost 2.5 million. But the first one was a projection, and this is the actual cost. And lastly, we're continuing our contract with the Integrity Commissioner, Ms. Craig. But aside from that, that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much for doing that, Councillor Stone. On that housing, I did watch, and the housing initiative that Councillor Stone referred to was an application that the district is submitting to the federal government under the Rapid Housing Initiative program. And the federal government, like a lot of times, are requiring a very fast turnaround, so therefore staff selected the site that is very close to McVitie Place because they own it, and it's almost shovel-ready. And therefore they thought that, you know, the federal government would respond favorably. In fact, all of the discussions they've had with them to date have been somewhat favorable. It was Chair Lehman who suggested that the price tag was fairly significant, and he suggested that there might be some economies of scale if you added an additional floor to it. I think it went from 3 to 4 stories. And with the 4 stories, you get 26 units. It means that I think the hope is the federal government will contribute up to $5 million of an approximate $8 million cost. So it still is a fairly hefty price tag. And there was a lot of discussion at the table around whether or not, you know, it is 26 affordable housing units. That's fantastic with an emphasis for seniors. But it's not cheap. And part of it is the addition of services that would, again, the reference to wraparound services. So that's part and parcel of the cost. Yes, Councillor Stone, you want to add?
I just wanted to add that I did speak to the commissioner directly after the meeting and said, hey, we've got some property.
We do.
So we will be looking to work with the district to have property ready for these very quick turnarounds with CMHC.
We will and do. And I have my update. I certainly was part of the Community and Planning Services budget discussion, and we also approved our departmental budget. We had 11 amendments, and so I'm not quite sure where we ended up as to the proposed budget increase, but Councillor Morrison is right. Part of the increase in our department is increased costs around our homelessness division. We've hired at least 2 new staff to service the properties that we own, the district owns, and the district owns, as we heard the day they were here, over 600 units across the region. And since COVID, we have had a lot of situations where there's been a lot of need for staff time on our properties dealing with clients. So we have increased staffing, and we've also increased the housing budget as well towards more affordable housing. But that's not the only thing we did at committee. We had a great presentation from the Muskoka Watershed Council, which came just before our orientation session from our watershed and environmental watershed programs group. And in that, we approved the entering into an agreement with, again, the federal government. They've We had a submission that was successful for stage 3 of our floodplain mapping exercise, and the feds are contributing $250,000 towards that cost. We're matching it, so it's a total $500,000 for stage 3 floodplain mapping, which is really incredible for all of the work that's going on in the area of environment and flooding and all of the things that we have to respond to. And under planning, we actually approved 3 things, all of which were Huntsville-oriented: the major amendment to draft plan subdivision file, common element Pine Haven Estates in Port Sydney. That was the one we recently discussed at Planning Council. We also approved the minor OPA amendments in Huntsville with regard to Highview and treetops that we dealt with at Planning Council. So they've now been approved by district. And that's my report on that. So, moving right along. Community events. We remember a couple of terms ago, we used to have this, and then we removed it, and now we're bringing it back. This is an opportunity, if anybody around the table wants to highlight an event that's coming up or had an event that was successful in any way, that maybe now is the time that you might want to say something. And I can start going to my right. So over to you, Deputy Armour, if you have anything. And you don't have to say anything. This isn't a have to. No pressure.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't really have an event. I think everybody's seen that nice message we got from Dan Watson about the Snow Village. I think that's and what's going on down there. Amazing. If you haven't been down through there yet, you should make a walk.
Councillor Cluche. Again, no pressure. This
Nope.
isn't a have to.
It's through you, yours. Just to let everybody know, their junior teams had a successful, junior hockey team, had a successful this year, and we're probably start the playoffs Friday at home, March 10th. So it'd be good to see some faces here that we all support them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, see, this is an important little thing. Councillor Fitzgerald, anything that you want to talk about?
Thank you, Your Worship. There's a couple things, actually. We had a very successful Family Day weekend in Port Sydney through, I can't even tell you how many countless hours to rescue the rink from Mother Nature's non-cooperation. We had, I would say, over 200 people. Nice to see so many new families and young people enjoying the fruits of our labor and our agreement with the town to have a rink there. I honestly don't know, because I'm so young compared with our membership, how long we've been doing that, but it's a long-standing thing, and I'm very proud and very happy the community is able to enjoy it. And the other thing was, very proud of my Town of Huntsville team that we put together to walk in the coldest night of the year, something we've done for 9 years, Julia? Couldn't do it without Julia. She does all the hard work. But across Canada, we managed to raise over $12 million. So, and of that, there's 5,500 volunteers, 182 locations, 5,921 teams, of which I believe we placed, Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, 12th out of 5,921 teams, and we've raised almost $100,000 to help our community who are homeless and hurting and hungry. So, great work, team.
Wow, thank you for that. I just have a note on the Family Day. I texted Councillor Fitzgerald on the Sunday to ask him what time the Family Day event was so that I'd know when to go down, and he responded, "How about yesterday?" And it started at 11. I felt like an idiot. Oh, well, next year, Councillor Morrison. Okay, Councillor Renwick.
I just want to echo what Deputy Mayor Armour said, but the shout out to Dan Watson and the Huntsville Festival of the Arts for their Snow Queen presentation that they had yesterday, or during the weekend, in the village, but it took them 2 years to put this event together. and the puppets that they had, and it was amazing. I think last night they had over 100 people in Rivermill Park watching, and I think that comment that came from one of the citizens saying how beautiful downtown looked with the lights and the restaurants downtown. So kudos to the Huntsville Festival of the Arts for the work that they do, for sure.
Again, always, it's amazing, all of the work and things that they do. Councillor Schumacher.
Yeah, so busy weekend. I did attend last night. It was a very well put on play, and they kept you warm by moving around to see all the different structures. So yes, well done to Dan and the group there and all the volunteers. Saturday, I spent my day at Arrowhead Park, and we had a very successful provincial games for Special Olympics and the Nordic event, and at least every one of our athletes for the Muskoka area went away with at least a medal from one event. Some got golds in all three, so very successful. We're hoping to see if we do qualify onto nationals in Calgary. Very excited for that. And yes, I did make it out to the tail end. I did show up on the Sunday, Mayor Alcock, to the actual event in Port Sydney, but the ice was a little soft by the time I got there.
Thank you for that, Councillor Schumacher, for reminding me of my tardiness. Thank you. What did you say? Okay, I'm skipping you, Councillor Stone. You don't have an opportunity. Done. All right, I think I'm not adding anything other than, what I missed. I would have gone to the Snow Queen, but I actually have been really ill all weekend, but I felt badly about that. All right, I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public, commencing now at 6:57. Wow, 6:57 p.m. for the purpose of considering the following matter pertaining to the following section under the Municipal Act 2001, 12.1.1. Section 2392C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. 12.1.1, Jessica Boys Re Confidential Report Corp-2023-10, Infrared Pipe Solutions Limited lease extension. Oh, all those in favor? Sorry. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the final lease amendment and extension agreement between Infrapipe Solutions Limited and the Town of Huntsville for 37 Center Street North and 25 North Dufferin Street as outlined in Confidential Report Corp. 2023-10. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you all. Okay. I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Cluche. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2023-22 be received, numbered, and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 27th day of February 2023. All those in favor? That carries. I have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 7:25 p.m. Questions? All those in favor?